What's up, everybody? Welcome to this week's edition of Podcast Name Deferred, our first live episode with our new name. We've got a great crew today. We've got a lot to talk about. We're going to dive into Willy Ademes' contract, really how the Giants are doing in general. We're definitely also going to talk about what's going on with the Braves and the Orioles. Hey, what's up, Bando? And we are also going to dive into like the biggest fraud and sleeper of the year. I really want to talk about that, see where we're at, and just take a trip around the league, see what's going on. Let me first bring in my co-host, the sex appeal of the network, a man who has done more talking about baseball in his career than I could dream of in my lifetime. The fabulous Craig Newton, everybody.
Good evening.
Good evening, buddy. How you feeling this week, man?
I'm excited. I'm excited we're live.
I'm glad that we're back to being live. It felt right. It always kind of felt weird. So when we talked about changing things around, I realized it was probably the best thing to do. We have our women's sports expert, and unfortunately, she happens to be a Dodgers fan, but we try not to hold that against her too much. I'm only nice to her because I'm hoping at one point she will give me back Mookie Betts. Give it up for Erika, everybody.
Mookie's never coming back to you. I'm sorry.
Give me back my friend.
No. Worse.
John is going to be with us. He's just running a little late, but we're gonna dive in and get started. So in the offseason, Craig, you got some good news, or what was seemingly good news at the time. Willy Ademes signed a 7-year, $182 million deal to become the Giants' new day-to-day shortstop. But unfortunately, to start the year, he's only hitting 196. He's got more strikeouts than he does hits. How are you feeling about Willy Ademes at this point as the season has begun?
Patience. We have the luxury of patience right now because when he's not hitting, the other Giants players are picking him up. So, I mean, we're doing just fine. Patience.
Patience is always a good thing. It's always a good thing to have the luxury to have. You guys are 15-9 right now. But what's crazy is because of how talented that division is, you're only a game ahead of Arizona. You're really only, a game and a half back from the Padres. You're only a half game behind the Dodgers. The Giants really aren't doing bad. Is there a point where you start to worry about this contract and what Willy Ademes' production is?
We're locked into him, so we gotta play him until he figures it out.
What's up, Keith? Thanks for stopping in. Yeah, it's I mean, the Giants there were really a lot of expectations on the Giants this year. The bar was kind of looking a little low, at least as far as what everything was looking at. Erika, what have you? You're also in that division. How have you felt about what's gone on up north?
I mean, honestly, I kind of expected a little bit more out of them, to be honest, just because of signing him. Like, I figured he would have. Hey, Liz, he asked my opinion. I'm just giving it.
I expected the Dodgers to be smoking everybody by now, and that hasn't happened.
Listen, I'm going to be honest. You can ask 7. Normally, I'm like, yeah, let's go. And I'm just kind of over here like, cool, okay. Like, we have this like lineup. We have all this deferred money. We definitely should be number 1, no problem. We should be undefeated, but we're not. So
that's why they play the game.
Exactly. So I don't know. I mean, just knowing that the Giants did sign Ademes, I really would have figured there would have been more seeing from him specifically. Because I mean, a lot of times it can just take, atmosphere changes and things to play roles in that. So that could be what we're seeing with him. Not really sure. We're just, like Craig said, patience. You kind of just gotta let him get the feel of it. He's in a new place. You know what I mean? So
for sure it is. I mean, it is a bit of a change. Really quick before we keep going. Gene, the answer is definitely 7. For sure. We are now thankfully blessed with the fabulous Ambrose. Ambrose,
John.
Well,
talking about Willy Ademes and the Giants, kind of just dive into what we were saying before the show we were talking about.
Sorry, I've got a guest with me. She's sleeping.
No worries.
The kids sleep overnight.
So was going to get your take. Willy Ademes isn't off to the best start. Hitting under 200. Just signed that 7-year deal with the Giants in the offseason. What are you seeing? How do you feel? Do you think it's time to panic yet?
No. I mean, anytime you make these big deals, there's always a chance that it could falter. But how often does it happen? And it's a lot of guys got off to a slow start this year. So I don't think it's necessarily time to panic. If you hit the middle of May and he's still not picking up speed and you're headed towards the All-Star break, then it's time to say, all right, what are we doing here? We've got to figure something out. But I don't think April. I don't think you should panic much about anything unless, like, you're a Rockies fan. I mean,
no, I get it. The Giants definitely seem to be. I mean, and that whole division is kind of stacked. Are the Giants overperforming, underperforming you? What have you seen?
Again, it's the beginning of the season. I mean, you got to remember. There's been seasons where, like, you'd think the Devil Rays, when they were the Devil Rays, now they're Sunshine, which is not intimidating at all. When the Devil Rays and the Royals were leading the division up until June, wasn't there one year, it was like 2003 or 2004, where the Royals won like 20 straight games to start the season?
That was back in like the Jermaine Dye days, and
everyone thought Tony Pena was like a Hall of Fame manager.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's nothing really starts. It's a puzzle. And it's a marathon. It's not a sprint. Nothing really starts to form. Nothing really starts to be certain until those all-star break votes start coming in. And then you can really get a grip on. And then even then there's a dark horse who turns the tide and can have a hot August. But I mean that's the difference between baseball and football. Football, your season's over 4 games into it, or if you're going to be going to the playoffs. Baseball, all you need is a hot month. But yeah, Ademes,
you're 100% correct.
I wouldn't worry about Ademes. I mean, I grew up a Yankee fan. I remember Danny Tartable. That was a bad signing. I don't think Ademes is going to be that bad.
That's fair. I think that there's. It's always weird when I see fans panicking on something like that this early into a long-term situation like that. Like if Soto had started off struggling and Mets fans were freaking out because of that deal. Like there's definitely going to be some transition time, and some players, like, he could have had that slow start in New York. He could have had that slow start in Boston. He could have, with the Dodgers, with the Angels, like whatever. Like there's no telling that the slow start is simply because of the new deal or where he's at or anything like that. He could just, his wife could have worn him out all winter, and he's just trying to get his energy back. Like, we don't know.
Yeah, and let me throw another example out there. When Randy Johnson had to throw outside at the beginning of the season, he sucked. He sucked in cold weather.
Yeah, he did.
When he signed with the Yankees, he was terrible in March, April, and May, and then he turned it on when the weather started to warm up. So it's all about finding your footing. Stop. So it's all about it's all about finding your footing. It's all about getting to where you need to be. And I think it's going to be I can't see it being a bust. I think the problem is a lot of it is the patience. No one has patience anymore. When you were a fan, you used to just be like, all right, let it go. But now everyone younger than me that's a fan wants instant success. And Soto's having a bad week. Oh, we wasted our money on him. We need to trade him. It's like, no, just let him cook. let it simmer. And no one has the patience anymore.
The Giants have got a plan, and Buster Posey and Bob Melvin, they've got a plan. They're sticking to it. Yeah. They have the luxury of being patient because they've got Jung-Hoo Lee. It's red hot. They've had a couple other players that have been hot. So
the Giants are still winning games.
Yeah. Yep. So the patience, they have no choice really. But he will get hot, and he's capable of carrying a team for a whole month on his back.
Oh, for sure. And especially with him being a shortstop. Me personally, a guy like him, how is his fielding? Defensively, is he doing his job? Which I haven't seen a lot of stuff on him making a lot of blunders. He probably has a couple of errors. Every player does at this point, really. But I haven't seen anything like majorly bad come across for him. So, like, right now in today's game, especially without the shift, your shortstop and your second baseman, their defensive abilities are paramount in today's game now. So unless he falls off defensively, I'm not really that worried about it. Even if he just has a rough year at the plate, every player goes through something like that. Like, that's not, and again, there's no telling he would have had it, or he wouldn't have had it anywhere else. But
I mean, unless he completely implodes like Angel Baroa,
yeah,
and just forgets,
or you have an Anthony Rendon situation
and forgets how to play baseball. Because I mean that very well could happen. Like with Baroa, he forgot how to field and hit. he went from being a perennial all-star to not being able to catch a pop fly.
Oh, yeah, so you saw Bellinger today and what he did.
Hey, the Yankees won their game today. Like,
yeah.
Listen, they might have, but Belly's doing Belly things again. All right, that's all I've got to say.
Something's wrong with your week's flag, by the way.
The last 2 weeks of April are kind of an important time of year for Belly. That's his Christmas time, especially right around the 20th.
Yeah,
he loves to have a green Christmas, and so. You can't expect much out of Belly until after Christmas. Like, come on, he's a baseball player. Baseball players don't do anything until after Christmas.
I mean, I don't know. What does Dansby Swanson do besides, like, be Batman's boss or whatever?
I gotta say though, the Cubs are one of those teams that I'm definitely blown away.
They beat
to how they started the season.
It's not that hard to be the best team in Chicago. You kind of just have to show up.
Well, but I mean, it's not even about that though. Like, when you look at the record, they have a pretty decent hold right now on the NL Central. They're 16-10, which is definitely respectable. 7-3 in their last 10. They have, I got to double check this. I'm looking at this right now. Okay, they have the highest run differential in the league right now. They're scoring the most points and giving up. They're doing that the right way.
But I mean, how competitive is the NL Central right now? I mean, what's the next best team? The Reds?
Actually, the Brewers are 13-11. The Reds are 12-13.
Okay, so the second place team is 13-11
in their last 10,
and the third place team is 12-13. So you're pretty much a sprinter running past a bunch of people on crutches.
Well, I saw the Cubs in spring training, a couple of games, and they impressed me. They may be sprinting, as you say, but they're going to give a run for that division. They're going to give a run big time. Well, as long as their pitching stays healthy.
Well, the pennant's going to the West. The National League is in disarray. The West is the only division that has it together right now. Everyone else is just going to be a spot filler.
The West is so stacked right now
because it seems like all the other teams all the other teams have components and they have players that could get them there. The Marlins have Matt Mervis. The Mets are hot right now, but none of them have it together as much as the teams in the West do.
You've got four out of the 5 teams in the West are not just decent teams. They're not just competitors for their division. Every single one of these teams you can see making a deep postseason run. Obviously, the Diamondbacks not as much as the other 3, because I think they still have a little bit of improvement both on the pitching, and I think they need at least one more big bat in their lineup. But especially with the Padres, the Dodgers, and the Giants, they're just raking. Their pitching is hitting locations. They're not dealing with a lot of injury issues. And so when you compound that, this is legitimately the most stacked division in sports right now. There is not another division across any sport that is this talented top to bottom, even when you factor in how bad the Rockies are.
And we could at least just attempt to get the Braves to where the Braves need to be.
Go to bed. I actually, though, with the parity and how many teams are falling apart right now, I had an idea, and I hope it's a good idea. So, of course, Rob Manfred's not going to do it. But
what's up, Brandon?
Hi, Brandon.
I think we should have what's called the Bauer Bowl, and the two worst teams, the worst team in the National League, which would be the Rockies, and the worst team in the American League, which is inevitably going to be the White Sox. They play each other in a series before the World Series, and the winner gets to sign Trevor Bauer.
I mean, honestly, it can't make your team worse. And then none of the front offices have to deal with any smoke because it was just a game. Like, it wasn't up to them to just do it. Like, I mean, I think it solves the problem.
Can I just know who the winner is, please? I have a state to move to.
Oh, God.
So, okay. And Erika, what were you going to say about the Braves?
No, I mean, like, I was just saying, like, I mean, like, the thing that sucks with the East Coast of it is that, like, you do have the Braves, like, I just feel bad for them. I feel so bad for the Braves right now.
Pounded by injury.
Like, they're like, they can't catch a break. They won today. I think it was 4-1, but they played the Cardinals. So, I mean,
they got smoked by the Cardinals yesterday, though, 10-4.
Yeah. So it's just like, I don't know. It sucks for the other side of the divisions because you've got nothing. I mean, you've got just the NL completely stacked. You've got nothing else.
It's okay. So this kind of leads. Okay, sorry, 10-7.
Yeah.
Right,
No, he was right. They started 0-7. They lost their first 7 games.
Yeah.
Well, and now they're on a nice little run. The Braves are actually, out of their last 10, they're 6-4, which is pretty respectable. That's what you want to see, that realistically. Yeah. You go 6-4 out of every 10 throughout the year, you're going to the playoffs. Like, really, that's a great season, honestly. But for the Braves, we got injury. Outside of that,
stop.
Where do the Braves start at trying to bring this season back into something that's more?
I don't know
what we would have expected from that organization.
I mean, what we have until Memorial Day till it really honestly starts counting. So, I mean, they better start doing something real quick. But I mean, I agree with what Brandon just said, that Atlanta does have the highest odds to get that wild card spot. And in all reality, we've got to look back at Atlanta. I think we were just talking about this on the Sports Report the other night. What was it? 22?
Monday. Yeah.
I mean, and they heated up out of nowhere and they ended up winning the World Series. So I mean,
21, yeah.
Yeah, so like you can't count the Braves out. You can't really count anybody.
You can't count a lot of teams out. I mean, I think the worst thing to happen to that division is if the Nationals hit it big at the trade deadline, they can make a run because they've got a couple of impressive players on there right now, and they're staying competitive. So
they're staying competitive, but I don't know that they're ready to fork over some money yet. And I don't know why, because you're right. Like there's some legitimate talent on the roster. Like that's the thing. Like the entire NL East, if all of these teams played to the level of the talent on their roster, the NL East would be just as stacked as the NL West, if not more. Like, I mean, you swap out the Marlins for the Rockies, it's virtually the same thing at that point. Because I still think the Marlins have the lowest ceiling out of any of those teams in the East. But it's hard for me to figure out what they can really do with the Braves, because so much of what they're dealing with is injury. Yeah. And you know, but at the same time, it's supposed to be next man up. So where do you draw the line?
What's Washington's payroll look like for going after a free agent at the?
They've got plenty of room.
They do?
They've got plenty, yeah.
I think they're in the bottom third.
Okay.
Strasburg
they're at least the bottom half, but
Strasburg was eating their money up. So once they got rid of him, I think it freed up a lot of space.
I mean,
facts.
There's so much talent on that team. They're another team that's sacked. They play to
an owner that will spin too.
Yeah. Steve Cohen doesn't care. Like he just, here, go do it. But inevitably the Mets will do Met things. Fire Snit though.
Good question.
That's good question. Because Snit's, I like Snit. I like him as a manager. I like him as a guy that kind of manages the egos of that team, keeps everybody humble. You know, and I think that those are important qualities to have in a coach. But does he have enough control of the clubhouse to get them out of the funk that they've been in? Like not just a rise and fall. I'm talking like consistent gradual increases.
Stop.
You know, you want to have more 6-4 10-game stretches than you want to have 4 and 6 10-game stretches.
Yep.
You've got to get out of that. You've got to get up there. So is he the guy to do that? That's the question.
Well, if not him, who?
Right. And no, like, is it, well, but look at that situation. Acuña's tweet. from what was that last week and a half ago, when there was a player that didn't run out of fly ball, and somebody asked him. Somebody had asked Snit after the game if he'd said anything to Kelnick about it. He's like, "Was I supposed to?" But 6 years ago, he took Acuna out of the game because he didn't run out of fly ball, and Acuna called it out. And Acuna's home on injury now, which it's another lost bat and fucking missed speed eye that they desperately right now.
And it really seems like he's injured. And it really seems like Acuna is constantly getting riddled with injury just as well. I mean, it's nuts.
Yeah, he's got a lot of problems.
Atlanta's not catching a break, and it's really unfortunate.
But I mean, just like with the culture, though.
Yeah.
That the buck stops with Snit on that. I mean, do the Braves have that top tier leader on their roster? Like basically whoever, because it would have been Freddie Freeman before, but obviously he's no longer there. I mean, so you got. I mean, it's not going to be Sales. It's typically not going to be a starting pitcher because they're there every 4 or 5 days. So you got Murphy, Olsen, Ozzie Albies, Austin Riley, Nick Allen, Verdugo. He's clearly not going to be a clubhouse leader. Michael Harris, the junior, Slot Kelnick, Ozuna. Who's going to take over that clubhouse and get them back in?
I mean, and I've got to agree with Brandon here, where he says you need to change the culture, because the culture changed for the worse in Atlanta over time. Because can you imagine if you were on Bobby Cox's team and you didn't run out a fly ball? I mean, and how did we go from that to where we're at now? I mean, and the problem is the managers aren't allowed to manage. Mm-hmm. Because there's too much money involved, and as much as I love the Yankees, it goes all the way back to the 70s when Steinbrenner protected Reggie Jackson. That's the law of the land now on the field, and a manager can't really manage.
Rooker getting traded to Atlanta. His name's come up in at the deadline the last couple of years. There's always the question of if he's going to get traded somewhere. Is it possible?
Who would Atlanta give up
for him?
Who would Atlanta give up for him?
I mean, you're trading Acuna at that point. I feel like.
Yeah.
And would it? I mean, that'd be a great deal for Atlanta. But would you trade Brett Rooker for an often injured Ronald Acuna?
No,
it's the A's. I mean, if you're the A's and you're doing things,
it's the A's. Yeah, okay, they'll do it.
But that's the thing. They don't care right now. The A's aren't going to care for another 3 to 4 years when they're actually in their own stadium again. They don't even have bathrooms in their dugouts.
Hey, John.
They care about the return on a trade.
John.
Yeah.
And Tony knows. Debbie's listening to this, and Tony, she's bursting into flames right now, right?
Oh yeah, for sure.
Oh, is she an athletics fan?
Oh, long time.
Yeah, she was a season ticket holder.
Oh,
yeah, we had.
She's that one person.
Yeah.
Huh?
She's that one person.
Yeah.
She's that one person. But no,
I'm wondering who that was.
Kelnick and some farm players. We have a solid farm system. They do. Atlanta actually does have. It's like top 5. One of the top 5 farm systems in the league right now.
Okay, so then here's my question. Then why do they not attempt to go into their farm system to try and change that culture? Then why are they just choosing to still sit?
Well, you can't rely on a young 20-year-old to change a culture in a room full of guys.
Right.
Because there's so many guys in that locker room that are over 30. It's not going to happen. They're not going to take him seriously.
I won't. Okay, agreed, 110%. Won't disagree with that. But what if it is that younger player that needs to come up and be like, yo, listen, check it. Let's get better. And what if it really does change that culture?
That's not going to happen.
Is it possible? Sure. But it's also possible that Anna Kendrick texts me back. Is it likely to happen? No.
If I'm the Athletics, though, You want to go into Vegas with a built-up team.
Yeah.
You want to go in. I mean, a smart owner, which I don't think Fisher is a very smart owner. I think he wears a coat that has to have mittens attached to it. So I don't think he's by any means that smart. But you'd want to keep someone like Rooker and build around him so you can go in to your new city competitive.
Ideally, you would, but Brett Rooker's prime is now, not in 4 years when they're ready to actually compete. And that's why if you're Atlanta, if you're the A's right now, you're going to get top premium for a guy like Brent Rooker, a solid top 5% outfielder, performance wise. Like defensively, the guy is legitimate Gold Glove material outfielder. I'm pretty sure he is a Gold Glover if I recall correctly.
And another logistical problem with the proposed trade. I mean, I could see the trade being proposed, but Acuna almost certainly would have a no trade clause. Is he going to waive his no trade clause to go to a lame duck organization that doesn't even have a bathroom in the dugout?
No.
If he has a note, you're entirely right, and that's where Kelnick and the farm players would come into play because if
it would
Kelnick
have to be farm players.
Problem, yeah,
it would have
Kelnick
to be farm players.
Yeah,
because no one is going to waive their no trade clause to go to Sacramento.
As cheap as the A's are, they'll take the farm players over Acuna.
Yeah,
we got you a bathroom, guys. We stole a bunch of porta potties from the carnival down the street.
And yeah, Brandon, I've watched some Moose Sox stuff because as a Sox fan, I've pulled up. I've watched the Moose Sox game. I understand now why he did not make the roster this year. I don't blame Atlanta for getting rid of him. He was a little helpful last year. I was actually kind of hopeful about him, but I would not be surprised to see Boston try to move him maybe as part of a package to grab another bullpen piece or it's because that's where Boston is the biggest need right now is bullpen. So I would assume he's going to be a part of a package for that. Ozzy could be traded. That I could see there being a line for that could eventually net you Brett Rooker. That's a 3-team deal. Somebody wants Ozzy. Atlanta's going to get farm players from both of you, and you're going to get Rooker. That's a possibility. That's a realistic possibility. And that saves the blow on your farm system because you still want to build there too because there's going to be there is some good young talent in that farm system that you really don't want to have to get rid of. So if you involve another team that's actually going to be competitive that Ozzy would have a shot with, then there you go. That's what you want. But
how's Atlanta looking at first base?
Who is their first baseman? It's Matt Olson. He's good. I like him. I mean, he's 250 hitter, but
that's who Atlanta signed and didn't sign Freeman. That's why I
always
thought him.
What? Freeman was always pissed at his agent for having to leave Atlanta. I'm saying, what if Atlanta sends the Dodgers a sweetheart deal and get Freeman back?
You don't need. As nice as it would be, the Hallmark Christmas special it would be.
Well, he is Canadian.
The Dodgers don't need Ozzy Albies. They don't need a second baseman.
Mm-hmm.
Because they're actually quite stacked as far as their infield is concerned. And probably the biggest support they could use is probably similar to Boston, some bullpen help, maybe a starter so that you really have an excuse to tell Clayton Kershaw, just stay home, bro. Please. Stay home. But okay. All right. Let's flip it over now because we the other team that I wanted to talk about that was kind of surprising with how things have started this year is the Baltimore Orioles. And I do think there's a little bit more here with the Orioles as far as being concerned because there is such a supreme drop off from what we saw last year and the expectations because there was legitimate expectations for Baltimore to be competing with Boston and New York for the division. And right now, the Tampa Bay's got a better shot than they do.
I'm going to go on the record as saying that Jesus Christ had a better Easter weekend than the Baltimore Orioles did. Like, like he was like, Jesus was like, thanks, Pontius. You let me off the hook. Stop. I mean it. Go to bed now.
That was no. That's.
I like sleeping.
And that 24-2 game, it wasn't giving up homers. That was just supreme contact hitting by the Reds. There was 2 home runs in that game in total. Both of them were by the Reds. One of them was a grand slam. But that was just the Reds getting contact, getting on base, getting contact, getting on base time and time again. The mental baseball. If you have a squad in the Orioles that is young, that is supposed to be supremely talented, fundamentally sound. That's what we saw last year was good sound fundamental baseball out of the Orioles. How the hell are you getting lit up 24-2 in the early part of the season? These young guys should be playing lights out.
At this point, you have to wonder, because for so long they blamed the Angelos family. And they were starting to look better when the Suns took over for the Crypt Keeper. And the Suns were making some good moves. I mean, the only time you saw life come out of Peter Angelos was when an ambulance would go across the field. He'd instinctively get up and start chasing it. The Suns were running a good team. They decided to sell it, and the culture has taken a major step back now. So you have to wonder what's going on in Baltimore. Is it the city itself? Is it the press?
I could see.
Is it the lack of exposure?
I could see the city itself being a problem because that city is just not great right now. It's almost
it's not. I live right down the street, and the problem is they don't get the crowds they used to because a lot of people won't go into Baltimore. They won't go into Baltimore to see a game. It's too dangerous. I mean, it's the same problem Detroit had with Tiger Stadium in the 90s. A lot of people wouldn't cross 8 Mile Road.
That park in Baltimore is beautiful.
It's one of the best stadiums in the league, and the majority of new stadiums that were built after it were modeled after that park. I mean, you had 2 parks that were built to that era. You had whatever the White Sox are calling it now, and Camden Yards. And the White Sox is kind of like, oh, that's cute. You built a stadium. And then when the Orioles built theirs, it was like, this is a stadium. And the Phillies, when they moved into their park, Cleveland, Detroit,
hit me up.
All those new stadiums are modeled after Oriole Park at Camden Yards. So it is the benchmark stadium in the league.
Yeah, Brandon, I'll hit you up, man. I'll hit you up after the show. It is crazy. Craig, what have you seen with as far as Baltimore is concerned? What do you think's going on?
They're loaded, and they're not producing. I mean, I don't have an answer. They're loaded. They should be dominating, and they're not. They're just flat.
They for sure. I'm one of those where like I'm a firm believer because you are what your record says you are at the end of the day. But I also look at just like some of the actual just the numbers. And when I look at the Orioles, they're pretty evenly split, not doing well home and away. So it's not a location problem.
Mm-hmm.
Like Boston last year struggled at home, but was great on the road. You've got they're not scoring. They're not the worst in the league at it, but at the same time, they're not scoring.
I think as someone that lives in that area, a lot of it does have to do with morale. Because when they were doing well and they were pushing for the playoffs, the fans would turn out and it would be a sea of orange in that stadium. But when they're not doing well, It becomes Fenway Park Junior. It becomes Yankee Stadium Junior. Because it's cheaper for someone
guys. That's awesome. Thank you.
Awesome. Thanks, guys. Appreciate it. It becomes the second Yankee Stadium. It becomes Fenway Park Junior because it is cheaper for a Red Sox fan to fly down from Boston, get a hotel room, and get tickets to Camden Yards than it is to actually get tickets to Fenway Park.
Man.
So a lot of Boston fans, they make that pilgrimage down to Baltimore a couple times a year to watch the team play here. And that's got to hurt morale. I mean, when you look up and you're supposed to represent a team and you see a sea of pinstripes in some sections when they're playing the Yankees. And you know, I never met a Devil Rays fan until I saw the Devil Rays play in Baltimore. It was, you know, that's the culture that's been bred there because, and it does at this point go back to the Angelos family. They treated the fans like dirt. The fans stopped coming, and it became a culture of malaise and apathy.
It's troubling because I'm sorry.
Go ahead, sorry.
It's troubling because unlike the Dodgers and the Yankees who've had injuries to deal with, and I hate using that excuse when it comes to team performance, but I mean the truth is they've had injuries, but the Orioles, they're just flat, and there has to be a shakeup somewhere. Somewhere has to be a shakeup.
I mean, to be honest, in my personal opinion, I would have honestly expected the way that the Orioles have done. Listen, I love my Dodgers. I'm just being real. I would have expected it to kind of be the Dodgers because we have all that talent. We have everything sitting there. I genuinely would have expected it to be the Dodgers than it would have been the Orioles. Like, I really would have.
Another thing I'd like to point out is it might be a cash infusion thing. Because I don't know if you guys know, Craig. I'm pretty sure you know about it because you have your finger on the pulse of the game. For a long time, the Nationals didn't have the TV rights money. The Orioles collected the Nationals TV rights money. That was the agreement for them coming to Washington. The Nationals would play on Masson. The Orioles would get 100% of the TV revenue. Somehow the Nationals still managed to win a World Series. I don't know. But I think the Nationals won out in court now, and the Orioles aren't getting that extra influx of cash.
But even with that influx of cash, the Orioles were still getting profit share every year instead of sharing it, even though they actually had a second rate because they just weren't spending. And they have, and what baffles me about the Orioles.
All right, sports nuts. If the Nationals are going to beat the Expos for life, then the Orioles are the St. Louis Browns.
I mean, and you could be right. Like, I don't know. The thing about the Nationals is being the Expos for life. Like, I can kind of see that, but at the same time, I think within the next 10 years, the Expos are back in Montreal, and the Nationals are still a team.
The Expos are back in Montreal. I agree with you. I think Montreal. That area is growing. The economy in Canada is getting better. It's a 3 million person metropolitan area. It's boomed since the Expos have left. They went from 900,000 to about 3 million. The market's right for a team. If they can get that downtown ballpark project resurrected and build Labatt Stadium where they wanted to build it, a team would be incredibly successful there.
The city of Montreal has told Major League Baseball, you tell us we're getting a team, we'll build the arena, we'll build the stadium. They're waiting. They're just waiting. Like, there is that much support. The city knows nobody's going to give pushback. They're just going to be able to just do it.
I mean, and I don't necessarily think it's a bad thing that the Nationals are linked to the Expos for life. I mean, the Dodgers are linked to Brooklyn for as long as they're going to exist. The Giants are linked to Manhattan. I think that sounds
about right.
You know, so I mean, is it a bad thing to be linked to where you came from? I mean, I think it's nice that they're actually respecting the heritage, and they have Gary Carter and Andre Dawson plaques up in the stadium because no other team would have done that aside from the Cubs where Dawson played. But
I'd see Nationals.
And you're right. Salt Lake City and Nashville.
Charlotte.
I don't think the market's big enough in Charlotte yet.
Charlotte will not get a team.
I would see it being Nashville getting it out of those three. It would be Nash.
Yeah, I agree. Salt Lake City, no way. Nashville, yes.
Nashville definitely.
Nashville definitely. Charlotte has been a hot one for years, but their infrastructure doesn't support it. Their infrastructure can't even really support basketball, and I don't know why they keep that team there.
I don't understand why. Sorry, Tony, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
The comment that just got.
This one?
No, the next one. Montreal is
okay.
on that list, but they have a very far out chance. And that's what I don't understand is why Montreal would have such a far out chance when they have, like you just said, like, tell us the team's coming, we're building. So, like,
yeah,
why would that be such a far out chance? Like, it makes no sense to me.
What I could think, you go 7.
I was gonna say the hard part about it is because, like, first of all, for me, like, if I'm looking at those 4, Salt Lake City, Nashville, Charlotte, and Montreal, I'm looking like just before we factor in location, because that's going to be factored into their decision that they make. Nashville and Montreal, I think, out of those 4 are the 2 best markets. I'm not a big believer in the Salt Lake City market, even though some people are. I think there's some potential there, but I also think that and there is a lot of money in that city, but it's a super winter area. To me, the way I see baseball in Salt Lake City, the hockey went over in Phoenix.
It doesn't cost nearly as much to operate a basketball or a hockey team that it does a baseball team, though.
Exactly, but the thing of it is, like with Salt Lake, it's just they're more geared towards true indoor or winter sports. Basketball's mostly indoor unless you're playing street court or something like that. So it's easier to connect with it because in Salt Lake City with those winters, people spend more time inside. It's not as much of an outside area like other cities where they have baseball teams be successful. Montreal being the exception because they're just such a rabid sports fan space. To me, like that's what I've seen. Like they support their CFL team like a lot. Like they show out for them. They show out for the Montreal Canadiens, the hockey team. They're passionate about them. Like it is legitimately a great market. You can't even get Salt Lake City to support the Jazz when they're doing well.
Yep.
The only thing to answer Erika's question, the only thing that sticks out in my mind is that it does, because of the change in economy, cost a lot more money to get the team up and running in Canada than it would if you stuck them in Nashville or in Charlotte.
No,
the Blue Jays spend a lot more money to stay afloat than the teams that are south of the border.
Well, part of it is the Canadian taxes.
And
that's kind of the hard thing you have to navigate.
And I have to disagree with this comment here because they have the funding. The Bronfman family's even back in on it.
There's so much money on that.
There's so much money being poured into this project. I mean, I can understand because of the way they left why there'd be a perception they don't have support. But there's about 3 different organizations that are working together. The Bronfman family is taking the reins. They want ownership.
And if that strike doesn't happen in 95, the Montreal doesn't lose their baseball team because they probably win the World Series.
I mean,
and that completely delays and derails everything that happened in that secession and got the Nationals to DC instead of them being the Expos.
I mean, people definitely forget that in the 80s, Montreal outdrew both the Mets and the Yankees at the gate.
There was so much talent on that team. They almost had Tom Brady as a player on their team because they had drafted him. Like, there was legit talent on the Expos. Randy Johnson played on the Expos.
You had Randy Johnson and Pedro Martinez as a 1-2 combination.
Both did. Yep. Yep. Like, that's insane, the amount of talent that they had, and they ended up losing it because what was his name? Bud Selig, right? Selig was commissioner then. Commissioner wanted a team in DC. And
that was when it was a really bad time for baseball there because Selig was friends with Jerry Reinsdorf. Reinsdorf pushed for Selig to be commissioner when they pushed, was it Uberoth or Vincent they forced out?
I think it's Vincent.
I think it was Faye Vincent.
Vincent.
They pushed Faye. Thank you. They pushed Faye Vincent out, and Selig kind of became like a puppet dictator for Reinsdorf.
Oh,
the league as we know it, is Reinsdorf's league. And
it wasn't Reinsdorf. Colangelo, even though the Diamondbacks were really, Jerry Colangelo was in on that from jump, kind of like how Ken Kendricks is now. Like Jerry Colangelo was in on that, and I'm sure Craig was around at that point. He can confirm. Jerry Colangelo was deep in that in ways that people didn't understand at that point. But that's the way he was with every single sports venture he owns, because he was like that with the Suns. I know for a fact that he was like that with the Arizona Rattlers, the arena football team that he owned.
But the problem with it is Reinsdorf. That strike went on probably for a couple more months because of Reinsdorf. Deals were constantly being brought to the table, and Reinsdorf would not let it. He kept tabling any deal. I don't even know how he had that much power. He wrestled it away from the other traditional teams that had power, the Yankees and the Red Sox and the Dodgers.
Whoa.
No.
Lie. Hold on.
No.
I can seriously shut that down in 2 seconds, because Dodgers farm system is sitting right in OKC. There's no way that's going to happen.
It's the Dodgers. It's the Dodgers AAA team, and they don't even see enough support to warrant everything that they do there. They've considered moving the team. There's not there's not a lot of baseball support in OKC. They struggle to keep the Thunder with the support that they have. And the Thunder are legitimate. They're a championship contender this year.
Look, man, even the teams in Texas.
Yeah,
that's if baseball is something to do while you're waiting for football to happen in Texas and Oklahoma.
Yeah. But ESPN says a lot of. ESPN lets Stephen A. Smith talk about baseball.
ESPN hired Skip Bayless.
Baseball and hit him in the nuts.
They hired Skip Bayless. Let's be realistic.
It's going to be interesting to see how the league expands for sure, because there are some good markets like Nashville. I legitimately think Nashville is a great market. I think that should be, out of all the options that they're looking at, Nashville should be the top choice.
Yeah, I said absolutely be the number one.
Before Nashville, though, what I would do is, because the Mariners are kind of in no man's land up in the corner of the country, I'd look into Vancouver. Initially I would have said Portland, but you'll never get a stadium built in Portland. You'll never get a stadium built in Portland. So I would have said
So I'm in the media, actually. I take one for every two things said. Same, take two for everyone. Yeah, that's fair. That's fair.
That's a good method of madness.
I get that. But no, I like the possibilities, but at the same time, it's hard to see the way certain things are, because we're looking at expanding the league. The A's don't have a stadium. It's going to be 3 to 5 years before they do, and that's if everything gets going shortly. The Rays are probably going to be playing in the Yankees spring training field for at least 1 to 2 seasons.
And you know what? The most logical thing, and again, we're talking about Rob Manfred here. There's no logic in the Manfred dynasty. The Emperor has no clothes.
Sportsnet's, I'll reach out to you.
But I mean, the most logical thing to do is to just grant the owner of Tampa Bay their wish and let them move to Montreal.
But here's the thing. Orlando is another market that's hot.
Yeah, we talked about that a couple weeks ago, right? Yeah.
I think with the Rays, the solution would almost be, because I think the city of Orlando actually would be a better place for the Rays than Tampa.
Look at the comment.
And if anyone from St. Peter, stop. Go to sleep.
Well, I mean, that's the only thing that makes logical sense. Like, come on.
I mean, and
it's a better city. It's a better market.
Yeah.
If anyone from St. Petersburg is watching, I'm not saying this to be rude to St. Petersburg. It's a lovely city. I really do like visiting there. It is not built for a sports team, though. It's off the beaten path. Most of the people that go to that area that are young and want to go to sports games hang out in Tampa. It's hard to navigate to. There's no real like the traffic gets congested. The stadium is ugly. It looks like a little kid left a sandcastle bucket sideways on the beach.
It's not a sports town. Well, and here's the thing. The weather issues, like we were talking about a couple weeks ago, the weather issues definitely present a problem because this isn't the issue that you're dealing right now with the stadium getting damaged because of a bad hurricane. It's going to happen again. It's not like a hurricane hitting that part of Florida is an infrequent occurrence. However, in Orlando, they're more inland, so they don't see as much when they do. But most of the hurricanes that Florida gets hit with are Gulf Coast hurricanes. They're not hitting Orlando; they're hitting Tampa. So,
but Orlando's got the infrastructure.
That's not the first time I've heard that. That's not the first time I've heard that.
I mean, that's a stadium that was built in 1988 to try to lure the White Sox in when they were having problems getting a replacement for Comiskey.
Really? I didn't know that.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
They built that stadium to lure the White Sox, and I think the Giants were rumored to threaten to move there.
Yes.
Because the Giants threatened to move to Washington and St. Petersburg. And then when that fell through and the Giants got the deal for their new stadium, the White Sox almost moved down there. And that stadium is older than the Rays by a lot, by like 11 years.
Damn.
The Tampa Bay Lightning played their first season in that stadium.
Really?
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Huh.
I'm definitely back. Montreal deserves another shot. Nashville is the best market. Orlando for sure.
I'd say Montreal.
Yeah.
I wouldn't mind seeing Orlando. But I think there was a city I was thinking about the other day. I'm trying to think. I'd like to see New Jersey get a team.
There's already enough bad smells in New Jersey. It'd be just like going to the Trop.
I mean, I've heard
New Jersey sucks so bad. The Jets and the Giants left.
No, they're still there. They just refuse to call themselves New Jersey.
New Orleans.
No.
There's not enough fan support in that market. They're too fair weather. Baseball needs solid markets right now.
I mean,
that's why.
Didn't New Orleans lose their basketball team?
Yes.
No, they went.
They saw the Pelicans.
They're the Pelicans.
The Bobcats or the Hornets move became the Bobcats.
No, the Hornets became the New Orleans Hornets. Then, when the Bobcats didn't want to be the Bobcats anymore, they paid the New Orleans Hornets for the Hornets logo, and the New Orleans Hornets became the Pelicans. And oh my God, I've gone cross-eyed.
I don't see the city. And here's the thing. I write insurance for a living. Like that's my day job. And so I get a good view of the way things are going in markets just because of the fact that I deal with home insurance. There's a lot of economists will tell you that you can see a lot about a way a market is going to be economically by the strength of the home ownership, the home prices, and things like that. Those can actually be, they're not complete indicators, but they can be indicators that can add on to other things. The city of New Orleans is going through a lot. The city of New Orleans hasn't recovered from Katrina like some people think. And it's not that it's a bad city, but they still have a lot of crime issues. There's still parts of that city that really aren't safe to go to air quality wise because they haven't been cleaned up from Katrina, and there's still mold.
There's still houses that you can drive by. I remember because my dad and I went through New Orleans after Katrina hit. There are still houses that I remember seeing after Katrina hit that still have the four-way, and you've got 0 line through it, 4. There's still shit on the doors from when Katrina hit that place. And it's not the same.
And the city, even it kind of, Katrina unfortunately kind of exposed the economic viability that the city has, or inviability as it may be. Yeah. The city's never been economically viable. The only reason the Saints are propped up by the league because they're a symbol of the city now. Like, and they're never going to move because of what that team means to that city. But their infrastructure cannot support an MLB team.
You could be correct here to a point. Because that's been an issue for a while, especially after the 90s, the golden era for the Jazz, really, with Stockton. It hasn't really been the same as far as that stuff is.
I believe the Salt Lake City hockey team is going to be the Yeti. Not quite sure.
They haven't announced yet, but yeah, that's they were trying to do that, but they may not be able to get the trademarks. I saw something about that. I saw an article about that. That may be one of the reasons why it's been delayed.
I like Storm.
Utah is more of a winter city, so you're going to find more connections with winter sports. Even if you have an indoor baseball stadium, you still have getting fans to the games in March and April when there's still a higher risk of snow in Salt Lake City versus some other places. Not saying it's going to, it's just a much higher risk. And then again, if you make a postseason run, are you going to have a game that can't run because it gets snowed out in November, in the end of October, beginning of November?
Yeah.
Those
are legit problems you can have.
What Utah has in its favor, though, is that the Mormon Church is very vested in the interests of that state, especially Salt Lake City. And
they want the city to succeed for sure.
And they are worth billions upon billions of dollars. So if you do move a team there and they're propped up by the Mormon Church until they can become economically viable, it is not out of the realm of possibility to stick a team in Salt Lake City.
The answer to this is I would absolutely go to a bad Rockies game because the alcohol is better and the weed is better. I'm just saying. No,
I'm right there with 7. I'm right there with 7.
No, I kind of gotta go with 7 on that one too. I mean, Utah is kind of like the Ohio of the West Coast.
Oh man, no, but that's not true because they don't use seasoning in Utah and in Ohio. They cinnamon on chili.
Yeah, but they all look the same. They're all short.
I don't know if no, that's true. Okay. But no, all right. So before we wrap up tonight, the last thing I wanted to ask you guys, was we look at how the season has started, top to bottom, thinking about every team. Is there anybody you think that despite solid performance so far is going to end up being a fraud? You can't say the Mets because that's the easy guess. Craig, I'll let you start.
No, I can't think right now what's me a fraud. It's too early.
Erika, what you got?
Yeah, I kind of agree with Craig, definitely. Like, I feel like it's still too kind of early, but I'm going to say Yankees because it just feels right.
Ambrose, what do you think, man?
I mean, it's a Dodgers fan. It's probably the only team that came to mind. There's not really, easy to pronounce.
I could have said the Giants, but I chose the Yankees. So
the Cubs. The Cubs. I think they're playing a week.
The Cubs haven't shocked me.
That's a good one. I didn't even think about that, Ambrose.
I think they're propped up by a weak division. I think they're riding high on a lot of really good games. Although they did beat the Dodgers by 16 points or something like that. So, I mean, they had that going for them.
It was 16-0. I watched it at the bar.
Yeah, that's 2 touchdowns and 2 2-point conversions.
Awesome.
That's awesome.
I'm glad you know what that means in football.
Okay. So to answer your question, John, I am legitimately shocked by Boston. And here's what I can say about Boston. And Sportsnet, we'll get to the Angels in a second. The reason why I'm shocked with Boston is there have been so many question marks. And a lot of it stems around our pitching. Because adding Bregman giving, Christian Campbell coming up, those things we had a feeling were going to be great. Did I know Christian Campbell was going to be Rookie of the Year material this quick because he's gotten on base in literally every single game except for one? No. In hitting over 300. But the pitch was a huge question mark last year. And yeah, we saw Walker Buehler. We knew Giolito's going to come back. Liam Hendricks is going to come back. But solid pitching last year. It was decent pitching, but they couldn't execute. They weren't locating as well. Then when they were locating, the bats weren't doing well. So I was concerned at the start of the season about how they were going to feel. But now that we've kind of gotten a glimmer of what we can expect out of Boston. No, I feel you on this, John. I try to not, but no. What I was going to say is, I feel like for Boston, I'm shocked at how quickly they've looked more like what you would expect a good team to look in April and May. Not perfect. They're going to have games where they struggle. They got blown out by the White Sox, but they're not as collectively. They don't look bad, and it's hard to say that last year.
I'd say someone that surprised me and not in a good way for the last couple seasons now is Texas. For their lack.
I think they're my pick for fraud. They're my pick for fraud. They're leading their division right now.
They stepped out of the Cowboy shadow. They finally got recognition. People were finally coming to like them in Texas after 40 years and realized that, the Dallas area had a baseball team. And they won a World Series. And you'd think they'd aggressively pursue every opportunity to keep that level of excellence, and they just haven't been doing it.
They didn't even have a very good showing for their World Series parade because people in the area didn't know what it meant to go to a championship parade. It was sad when the Kansas City Royals won the World Series in 2015. There was 3 million people in downtown Kansas City. People were coming from all over Missouri and Kansas to go to this thing. Same when the Chiefs won their Super Bowls. But I think they're fried. It's because I don't think it's going to continue. I think they're as good as their record looks right now. I think we're going to see a completely different result by the end of the season. Is it possible they get their division? Obviously, because every single team in that division has a question mark. The Angels are a team, legitimately. I don't know if you guys have seen the way the Angels look, but they've had a healthy Mike Trout, and that has made a huge difference for that team. They're 11-11 right now, but there is some legitimacy out of their performance.
Well,
they are a team that could make a couple of moves and actually push for something, the division, a wild card in the AL, something.
Not if Artie Moreno has something to say about it. Get cold day in hell before he lets them win a game.
Good.
That Angels World Series team was the last successful thing that Disney has ever done. Okay. Royals and Philly.
Eagles come out because it's like fighting Golden River these days. Of course, everyone and their mother coming out half is to climb poles and get half drunk, and those who don't know why they're drinking. Yeah, that's fair.
Think the police actively root against the Philadelphia teams when they're in a championship?
Oh, absolutely. Insurance companies root against the Eagles when they're in a championship. I know the insurance company I work for, we write policies up there. I have customers up there. I want the Eagles to win, not just because I'm a Chiefs fan. And yeah, that's the thing. The Angels, they're cursed franchise, but Mike Trout is swinging. They're gonna get their quota on tickets real fast. They're gonna hit their quota halfway through the season and stop performing. Okay,
I hope not, because I know how that movie ends, and I don't want Tony Danza to get cancer.
Okay. All right, y'all. So, a lot of great baseball coming up this week. And you can catch, if you go to the podcast name Deferred Facebook page or the Wire to Wire Sports page, I post MLB Morning Minute every day. You can also catch me on TikTok. It's at FGD and then 7 spelled out, FGD7. Posted an MLB Morning Minute every day. Just a quick update on what's going on in the world of baseball. You can catch us every week, every Wednesday of every week, 10 p.m. Eastern, right here on the channel that you can see us on. And then you can also catch Erika and I Monday Night's Sports Report right here on the same channel. Thank you everybody so much for being active on the comments. You guys are fantastic, Sports Nuts. And
Kitty.
Brandon.
What was his name? Brandon. Yeah, that's a Brandon. I will reach out to you guys. I will definitely collab something. For those of you that catch this after, please catch us live. Get in the comments. We'd love to hear your thoughts. Thank you, everybody. We will see you next week right here on Podcast Name Deferred. Have a good night, everybody.